Heading into Paris, Sha'Carri Richardson was comfortably the fastest woman in the world this season, with her time of 10.71 in the US Olympic Trials final, with Julien Alfred being the only other woman qualified for Paris who ran under 10.8 with a time of 10.78. Sharika Jackson had a season's best of 10.84, and those three were initially my favourites to make it onto the podium, with Fraser Price not racing enough to gauge what kind of form she was in. However, Jackson pulled out of running the 100 a few days before the event, leaving a space wide open for someone else to potentially get on the podium. In the 2, along with Daryl Nita. Finishing second behind Daryl Nita was the American Melissa Jefferson, who recorded a time of 10.96. Sha'Carri Richardson cruised to a time of 10.94 in her heat, while Julien Alfred and Audrey Leduc won their respective heats in 10.95. The next fastest time of the round belonged to Iwa Swoboda, who won her heat in 10.99, with the two remaining heat winners being Bass of Gambia with 11.01 and Twanisha Terry with a modest time of 11.15. Other notable performances from the round were Tia Clayton with 11 seconds flat, Dina Asher-Smith with 11.01, Kabunji with 11.05, and Zoe Hobbs and Gina Lukenkemper with 11.08. Taking up the vacant spot left by Sharika Jackson for Team Jamaica was Sha'Carri Forbes, who qualified for the semi-finals with 11.19. In the first semi-final, we had Marie-Josée Talou, Melissa Jefferson, Iwa Swoboda, Dina Asher-Smith and Kambunji as the main prospects to make it through to the final. Melissa Jefferson won the race in a time of 10.99, while putting together the most complete performance, as Talou finished in second place with 11.01 to secure her automatic qualification to the final. Kambunji and Swoboda took the third and fourth spots, with Dina Asher-Smith in fifth. The second semi-final was expected to be the most competitive of the three semis, with Sha'Carri Richardson, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce and Julien Alfred all being drawn together, but prior to the semi-final, it was revealed that Fraser-Pryce had pulled out of competing, putting a disappointing end to her incredible Olympic career. When the gun went off, Alfred took command of the race and Richardson got into her running by halfway, as those two athletes pulled away from the rest of the field. But Richardson didn't look like she wanted to overexert herself trying to close the gap on Alfred, who finished first in 10.84. Richardson took second in 10.89. In the third semi-final, Tia Clayton got the best start and created a gap on the rest of the field to finish first, as Daryl Nita took second place, with Twanisha Terry not having the best race, finishing in third. Clayton's winning time of 10.89 was the joint second fastest time of the round along with Richardson, with Nita's 10.97 being the next fastest time. Terry's 11.07 was enough to see her through to the final as a time qualifier, along with Kambunji, who ran 11.05 in the first heat. For the final, we had a lineup of Kambunji, Talou, Clayton, Melissa Jefferson, Julien Alfred, Sha'Carri Richardson, Daryl Nita and Twanisha Terry, with Richardson and Alfred being in the exact same lanes as they were for the semi-final, placed right beside each other in lanes 6 and 7. It was clear that Richardson would need to up her performance if she wanted a different outcome in the final. Before the final got underway, there was rainfall which resulted in the track being quite wet, which I thought would be more favourable conditions for Alfred as the more powerful sprinter, while Richardson, who's a lighter sprinter, has a race style that's much more suited to dry and warm conditions where she can fully unleash her top speed. When the gun went off, Alfred got a good start as she had been getting all through the rounds, while Richardson had fallen behind to Alfred and Nita each side of her. As the rest of the athletes had their heads up and were out of their dry phases, Richardson still had her head down, delaying her transition to full upright running. But since Richardson usually makes up the deficit in races by starting upright running earlier, it was beginning to look like she wasn't going to have enough track remaining to make up the deficit. When Richardson got properly into her running around 40 metres, she was able to overtake Daryl Nita, but with Alfred executing her race so well from the start and not being an athlete to fade towards the end, it seemed quite clear after the halfway point that Alfred wasn't going to be caught. Alfred won the gold medal in an amazing time of 10.72, securing the first ever medal for St. Lucia, as Richardson finished second with 10.87 and Jefferson finished third with 10.92. Daryl Nita missed out on the medals, finishing fourth with 10.96, as Terry and Kambunji also finished in under 11 seconds. Tia Clayton cutting back up her semi-final performance and finished 7th with 11.04 in a disappointing campaign for the Jamaican women, with the 3 athletes who swept the podium in Tokyo all failing en route to this year's final due to injuries. Talu finished in 8th place after pulling up with an injury, although she had been falling behind in the race after a poor start. The unfolding of this Olympic final does bring attention back to how much Richardson's race execution in last year's World Champs final may have benefited from her being in the outside lane. Being next to her main rival in Julien Alfred this time around may have affected her mentality and hindered her ability to stay relaxed during the race when she was struggling to close the gap, although nobody can argue against Alfred being the well-deserved winner based on her incredible performance in Paris.